Hello and welcome to Euphoria. This channel explores designing, creating and building models for a LEGO city. We'll be exploring the joys and challenges of building official LEGO sets and designing and making modifications and my own creations. In this series of videos, I'll be explaining how I develop the concept, design and build for a LEGO creation of my own design, a MOC. I'm going to be creating a building for my LEGO city. It will be an old astronomical clock that sits in the centre of the town and is a historical landmark and tourist attraction. In previous videos we looked at the development of the concept for this model and the early stages of design leading to the structural design for this MOC. If you haven't seen them yet, you might want to look at the previous videos in this series. There's a link in the card above and in the description below. In this video, which is part 5 of the series, we'll take the structural design, which we developed in part 4, and take it further into the design phase. So in this second phase of the design, I'm going to develop the detailed design for this MOC. This video will be followed by further videos covering the rest of the design and then the build of the MOC. Look out for those coming up. In the previous video we developed the structural design for this MOC. It's looking like a building that could be constructed out of LEGO, and we have a clear idea of what it will look like. It's a corner modular building, which means it needs to connect to a modular building at the side and at the back. It will be a historical building containing an astronomical clock, and it will have a fountain at the side. It will be built over 3 stories that will be separable in modular style. We also considered how the design provides support for the floors and the roof, whether it has enough strength, and how it will conform to the modular building standards. I also touched on the likely cost of the MOC. If you missed how the structural design was developed, it might be worth looking at the previous video in this series. So the structural design looked at the design of the walls, floors and roof that form the main structure of the building. Now we're moving on to the next stage of the design, which will work on the detail. Quite a lot of the design up to now has consisted of placeholders and mock-ups to get the dimensions correct, although there are some parts that I've prototyped to make sure they will work. There are still quite a few things to decide as we develop the detailed design, such as how to fit in stairs between the levels, exactly how to build the roof, details of doors and windows, details of the fountain feature, how to make the astronomical clock feature, the internal structure, that is rooms and their dimensions and uses, the exact construction details, that is to say which bricks I'm going to use and their colours. We'll deal with quite a lot of these detailed decisions in this phase, and the result will be the detailed design. That's why I call this the D phase of the design process. I'll be developing this design in a combination of computer-aided design using LEGO Digital Designer or LDD, and I will start building some of this using real bricks. This will run alongside the design phase so that I can check how some of the elements fit together physically, to test the strength of some assemblies and to see how things look. For this particular MOC, I'm fortunate that I already have a lot of the parts I require, so I will be trying to make the most of those parts to minimise the amount of additional bricks that I need to buy to complete the build of this MOC. This stage of the design is quite difficult to do if you don't want to use a computer, but you can always sketch out some parts of the build on paper and start the build using bricks that you already have, even if not in the right colours. So now let's make a start on the detailed design for this MOC. I'm going to start by thinking about the back door. I want to achieve a historical look, so I'm not sure about using just a normal door frame. I wonder if we could have an arch for the back door, a bit like the arched entrance at the front of the building. I've seen this door with a curved top and a wooden look that I think would look great in this building. Unfortunately, there's no ready-made frame for this door, so I have to create an archway for the rear entrance that would fit this door. Here's what I came up with. I have an external arch which frames the door and an internal arch which supports the wall above the door. This double arch arrangement also takes care of the slight protrusion of the modular connector at the back of the building. I'm not sure how to finish off the top of the archway, so I decided to have a sloping roofline above the doorway that's similar to the one at the front of the Harry Potter clock tower set. I can put a light at the side of the doorway that I think finishes off the rear entrance rather well. So I like that effect on the rear entrance so much that I can't just have an open archway at the front of the building. I think it needs a door as well. I can adjust the design for the front entrance so that it uses the same kind of old-fashioned door, and it uses a similar build technique to the back door. I also fancy having a bit of decoration around the front entrance, so I can add these small plates at an angle that I think finishes it off rather nicely. In the last video we developed the floor plans for the ground, first and second floors. Now I need to develop the design for the staircases and therefore the holes that I need in the floors to accommodate them. First I need to decide on the position of the stairs. Looking at the layout of the building, there are several places where I could put the stairs, but I've decided to put them in this end of the building where there's a blank wall. On the ground floor I want the stairs to look like they are made out of the same stone as the rest of the building, and therefore I've made the stairs out of bricks and arches in the same tan colour as the walls. I've put a turn in the stairs so that they fit in the end wall here. That means that I need a hole in the first floor so that the stairs can emerge in this corner and allow room for a little landing space at the top. Building the stairs this way also gives me a little cubby hole under the stairs and still allows room for the back door to open underneath the stairs. On the first floor, I think an open staircase would be more appropriate. This might be made out of wood, such as you would find in an old building like a mill. So I can design it using one of the standard staircase pieces, which provides 6 steps already joined together. I still need a bend in the stairs, but this can be supported by some corbels jutting out from the wall. I can also make the staircase a bit narrower, as this staircase is only used to reach the attic rooms. So I integrated the staircase into the walls, and this gives me stairs that are 3 studs wide rather than 4 studs. I also put in a banister to stop the minifigs falling down the stairs. In a similar way to before, I need a hole in the second floor so that the stairs can emerge in this corner and allow room for a little landing space at the top. I need to sort out the bit at the front corner where the modular connection point sticks out a bit. I played around with the idea of having a small tower on the front of the building. It would add some more interest, and used some of the parts I have from the Harry Potter sets. I even prototyped this part of the build. But in the end, I decided that it's not in keeping with the style of the building. It's too disruptive to the facade and it makes it look too busy. So I'm going with a simpler look without the tower, and I resolved the issue with the modular connection point using some rock work around the base and some buttressing. I'll use that technique in other places around the base of the building as well. At the back of the building, I have a similar problem to that at the front. This Technic brick forms a modular connection point, but it isn't integrated into the building. I want to fix this by using the fountain construct. I can move the fountain over by one stud and extend it out by a couple of bricks so that it encompasses the Technic brick. This fountain is in a different style from the rest of the building, so it looks like it's been added later. The backstory that I want to invent for this is that there was a spring here, and over the centuries that has been turned into a fountain which has been given a nice marble surround. I quite like this fountain and the surround, but I'm going to add some more detail around the bottom of the walls, a bit like at the front of the building, to give the impression that the building has been built on a pre-existing rocky landscape. I may as well complete the ground floor by designing the pavement to the side of the building and the area around the front entrance. There's no real magic to this, I'm just going to tile the pavement using the standard dark grey tiles used in most modular buildings. For now, I'll include an edging strip along the side, although when I set this building in position, I may remove this and replace it with plain tiles for the passageway down the side of the building. I'll continue the tiling at the front of the building, and now would be a good time to put in the detailing for the front entrance. Although there are some different options, for now I'm going to keep the design of this feature very similar to the Harry Potter clock tower. Although I may want to change out the colour of the rails of this balustrade so that they pop out a bit more from the colour of the pavement. Now I'm going to look at the astronomical clock feature on the front of the building. For the clock at the top of the building, I can use the main clock face from the Harry Potter clock tower set. But really one of the main features of the building is the astronomical clock that sits below the main clock on the first floor and above the entrance. There aren't really any ready-made astronomical clock features, so I'm going to have to design my own. Some real astronomical clocks have a moon phase indicator in the shape of a ball. I tried several ideas to make this, but I couldn't find two hemispheres in Lego to make one that worked the way that I wanted. I could make a fairly large one using two half cylinders, but decided that didn't look right and it was too big. I could make a moon phase indicator using a circular plate and some tiles instead. This can be rotated to indicate changing phases of the moon and the positions of planets or moons. I think this design works okay, so I can mock it up using real Lego. I can also add an arm that could indicate the position of the Sun in relation to the planet. I quite like this design, but I feel that it lacks the impact of some of the large astronomical clocks that I've seen. I could try using a larger circle. There are arch and curve pieces that let me create a surround for a circle that's 8 studs across. That's a lot bigger than the previous one that was only 4 studs across and will have a lot more impact. So here I've incorporated the larger circular frame into the fabric of the first floor of the building. The circular plate can rotate and the smaller circle in the centre can also rotate. There's a large variety of circular tiles in different colours and patterns available that I can use to finish off the clock face. I also decided to relocate the smaller clock face from the Harry Potter clock tower to a new position next to the lower astronomical clock, and to attach it so that it's closer to the wall and doesn't stick out so much. I've still included the sun indicator, although if I'm going to keep it, I'd like to improve the design somehow. Now let's look at the roof. There are a few details to determine how to construct the roof panels. Now that I've extended the roof line, I can use larger plates for the main panels of the roof, and I can put the roof steps on the back of the building as well. To make the angles of the roof, I'm using the technique from the Harry Potter Hogwarts clock tower on the front. There's a similar technique on the back, just using two wedge plates to form the angle. The roof at the back is attached to a beam. It's 16 studs long, which is a bit much to leave unsupported. So I've added this supporting arch arrangement, which should make it much stronger. So that more or less completes the detailed design for the exterior of the building, apart from the details of the locations and style of the windows. So to finalise those, I want to look at the design of the interior spaces to determine whether that needs to affect where the windows go, or vice versa. This is a historic building, and it houses the astronomical clock, as it has done for centuries, but nowadays it's also a tourist attraction. So I'll look at the uses of the different spaces in its historical and modern context. On the ground floor, the centre of the building is the entrance hall. Most of one end of the building is taken up with the back entrance and the stairs to the first floor. The back of the building is reached through this archway. This is where the spring was originally, and the water is used to feed the fountain outside. I want this room to be a place where people can come to sample the spring water as they visit the building. The back of the fountain is on one side of the room, and there are just a couple of small windows on the other side, with the back wall remaining blank because that side of the building adjoins another building. On the left-hand side of the ground floor is a small area and access to the tower. This could be used for a small gift shop. Due to the rocky outcrop at the base of the building here, I think we might do without a window in this corner wall. So I'll take this window out and replace it with just some masonry. The first floor will house the mechanism for the astronomical clock, and this will be at the front of the building. At the back of the building will be a room that was once the office for the official timekeeper. This was once the place where the person responsible for running the clock kept his records and did his calculations. So I think we need an internal wall across here, and we'll put in a door to the office. And we'll give the office a slightly bigger window on this side so that the timekeeper can get some natural light. The rest of this floor can be an exposition space about timekeeping and the history of the spring and the astronomical clock tower. The second floor is inside the roof space. The walls aren't very high, so there isn't much room for windows. A couple of windows in the eaves and an arched window at the front and side provide some light, so this space is relatively dark. Although there are a couple of pillars on this floor, the rest of the space is open, with just an arch separating the main space from the area at the back. There's no need for internal doors. The main thing on this floor is the mechanism for the astronomical clock at the top of the building. The other space can be used for an exhibition about astronomy and astrology and the workings of the clock. In the structural design phase, I built the walls using placeholders such as these panels, just so that I could see what the structure of the building would look like and get things like walls and support for the roof in the right places. But as I've gone round the exterior of the building, I've replaced many of these panels with other bricks so that I can provide details like door surrounds, window locations and other features. I'm not against using panels in the right places because they're relatively cheap, but they are also very plain and boring, they're not very strong and don't bind well, and I don't like using them for load-bearing walls. So here in red you can see where I've replaced the panels. The result is a much more robust build using bricks that bind strongly together. I've also checked for other parts of the build that aren't well bound, and I've adjusted the use of bricks to improve that. It's difficult to show that on the screen here. It's worth just keeping an eye on the likely cost of this MOC. I'm expecting this MOC to cost a little more than a typical Lego modular building, which has about 2,500 pieces, including minifigures and accessories. At the moment, this MOC is made up of about 1,560 pieces, so although I still have to add some details, I think I'm on track as far as piece count is concerned. I am hoping to reuse some of the parts from sets that I already have bought to form the basis of this MOC. The Harry Potter clock tower set contains 922 pieces, of which about 770 pieces are used in the buildings. The Harry Potter Whomping Willow set contains 753 pieces, of which about 400 are used in the buildings. That's about 1,170 pieces I could potentially reuse, although I don't expect to use all of them. That could leave me needing as many as 1,300 extra pieces. I spent £75 on the clock tower and £31 on the Whomping Willow. Add the cost of a base plate and the additional pieces, and this MOC may still cost more than a new modular building. I'll look again at costs as I'm finalising the design, because there can be trade-offs on the cost of parts. So now we've got a detailed design for this MOC. We've made some detailed decisions about the doorways and entrances. We did some detailed design on the external features of the building, including the fountain and the design of the astronomical clock itself. We've designed the access to the upper levels using stairs and access through the floors. We've looked again at the design of the roof. We looked at the location of the windows and the details of the bricks making up the walls. We've divided up the internal spaces and decided on their use, so we now have the internal floor plans. And we checked on the likely cost of the MOC. So that was a look at how I developed the detailed design for this MOC. There are still a few smaller things to decide as we finalise the design, such as furnishing the rooms, final decisions on colours and finishes, some detailed features, flooring and a few other finishing touches. Look out for the next video in this series, in which I'll look at the final stage of the design for this MOC. Thanks for watching. Please let me know what you think in the comments below, and subscribe to this channel if you want to see more videos about LEGO modular buildings.